being a car enthusiast is actually the craziest thing in the world. Whether you're aware of it or not, you wake up one morning and you find yourself absolutely obsessed with this thing that we call cars. For some, it's a specific car. For others, it's an entire manufacturer's line of vehicles that they release. And we get so passionate in our disagreements and agreements about what's good and what's not. But I think as much as we may differ in opinion with certain cars, there's one car that has stuck out as the ultimate pinnacle of the driving experience, and that is the BMW M4. Welcome to SANTEFIRE Motoring. My name is Bongani. Please do me a favor, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe, and I can't wait to show you this car. Now, before we get into the specifics of the car, do me a favor, just get comfortable so I can geek out for just a second, because there's a lot of cool things to mention about this car. The BMW M4 wasn't always a thing. So what BMW used to do is they used to make a coupe M3 and a sedan M3. And they saw the success of both and decided to split the two into the M4, which is the coupe M3 essentially, and then the M3, which is the sedan, and it has 4 doors. Underpinnings are exactly the same. They have the same suspension, the same engine, the same interior components. It's basically the same car in a different format. And this was the first time they introduced the BMW M4. Since then, we've seen people absolutely fall in love with it. We've seen BMW release different makes and variations through the M4 CS, the M4 CSL, the GTS, and a few other GT3 homologation spec vehicles. So there's a lot of driving heritage behind this car. And ultimately, it just speaks to BMW's DNA. You get a inline-six 3-liter twin turbocharged, and this car was the first time they put a twin turbocharged inline-six in an M car. Previous to this, we had a V8 in the E92, and then we had single turbo examples going further back, and then naturally aspirated examples going even further back than that. So stock, these cars are producing 317 kilowatts and around 550 Newton meters of torque. This one has a stage 2 tune. It produces 340 kilowatts to the wheels and a whopping 680 Newton meters of torque. That goes through a 7-speed DCT transmission, which is so snappy compared to the ZF 8-speed that you saw in the BMW M2 that we drove not too long ago. If you want to check that video out, just click the link. Keith is going to overlay it over here and you'll be able to check it out. And basically, all that power goes to the rear wheels, and it just makes for an incredible driving experience. Once we get into the car and properly sit down, I'll run you through what it feels like. But let me just say, it's the most raw feeling car that I've been in, and I'm absolutely in love with it. That's a spoiler alert. Now, have a look at this. You can see that it has been modified by a bit. I mean, obviously you see the stickers around there, and it just looks a bit more enhanced compared to your normal F82 M4. So let me just quickly run you through some of the aesthetic changes. We'll get into the performance changes, then into the car, then we'll go for a drive, okay? Starting with the front end, and I mean, this is probably the most attractive angle of the car. You might see the back and disagree. Let me know in the comment section what your ultimate thoughts are. But you do get a composite plastic front splitter over there, as well as these blacked out bumper canards with a blackout grille over there. And one subtle touch that I like are these M colors on your front grille. And then obviously you get a silver M4 badge, because this is not an M4 competition, it's an M4 coupe, but because it's been modified, I think you get the performance in any case. You also get this aftermarket carbon fiber weave looking eyelid decal over here. And this, man, I really wish BMW had kept the halo lights. I mean, for as long as I've been alive, BMW headlights look like this, but they've changed over recent years, and sort of seeing this in person gives me some nostalgia, man. I'm absolutely in love with this thing. You'll also notice that we have some aftermarket wheels on here. These are 19s in the front, 19s in the back as well. I know that in some BMW M4s you get a stagger setup with 20s in the back and 19s in the front, but these are Vossen forged wheels. They are wrapped in regular Goodyear Eagles. These are normal run flats, but the real party piece is over at the back. The owner, and he's such a cool guy for this, he actually has Michelin Cub 2s in the back here. And if you know anything about Michelin Cub 2s, you know that these are some very sticky tires once you manage to get some temperature into them. I've done a few rips in this, and let me tell you something, it hooks like nobody's business. You would expect it to break traction, but once these are nice and warm, you get your money's worth. Have a look at this. You also get some modified brake calipers and tiny details around the center caps there with that touch of green. You also get a plastic running side skirt over there. Obviously, it's reinforced as a car component. And then here, you also get some carbon wing mirrors. These are not OEM, they have been retrofitted. A slight tint, some decals, and because it's a BMW M4, you get a carbon roof. If you're gonna get an M car, spec it with the carbon roof. Moving over to the rear end, you also have some 20-inch spacers back there, and this is something I absolutely love. You get some aftermarket GTS OLED style rear lights over there. Have a look at the weave on this carbon fiber. I hope it picks up on camera, but you get this hexagonal shape over there, and I think it looks so nice. It gives the rear end of this car so much presence, and then you also get a rear diffuser with this really cool F1 inspired brake light over there. Quad pipes with some carbon fiber surrounds with that M Performance look, and it actually does have an aftermarket exhaust. Rogue Performance gave us a downpipe, a midsection with a stock back box over here, and it sounds so good. And if the exterior components of this car weren't enough to convince you that there is some sauce underneath here, have a look at the engine. You'll notice that we have some aftermarket front-mounted intakes which sort of run through here, and you can actually touch them through the grille. That gets you colder air, and it absolutely sounds incredible. You have upgraded charge pipes and upgraded charge cooler. It does have a stage 2 FRC tune on there, and that's been managed and loaded by Spartus Speedtech. Like I said, 340 kilowatts, 680 Newton meters of torque, which ultimately makes this car just a blast to run through. And you know what's something that I really like about this car? The power dome on the bonnet. We started seeing glimpses of this from as early as the E46, and I just love this little subtle bump over here to let you know what it is on. It's not the normal one. Let's get a look at the interior. Now, the interior of this BMW M4 really is a blast from the past, but I couldn't be more appreciative of it, right? You've seen me complain about the screen renaissance that we find ourselves in the other videos that we've shot. I mean, the new BMW M2 has this massive 15-inch display, which, as cool and as feature-rich as it is, can be a bit cumbersome to use. So getting into something like this really is such a calming experience. I mean, in front of me, I have traditional dials. When last did you see that? It's the greatest thing ever. Goes all the way up to 330 kilometers per hour. I think if you have the M drivers package, the most you could do is like 290, but I stand to be corrected. Let me know in the comment section if I'm not speaking any truth in that. Also, you have your rev counter on the right-hand side there, and we'll overlay it with the footage. But basically, on the rev counter, you'll notice that you have a yellow line that leads into the red. And when the car is cold, that yellow line moves up the rev counter, so you can't go too hard. And as the car warms up, sort of lets you go harder and harder. Just a little measure that BMW puts in to make sure you can take care of your car. You have a tiny LCD display down there, and it effectively just gives you the minimal information that you need. Speed, range, your engine, suspension, and steering settings, and that's it. That's really it. You also get an aftermarket steering wheel. You get some Alcantara over here with the M tricolor stitching, and what's really cool is this forged carbon that you see at the top and the bottom. It's also flat bottom here too, and then you get the traditional M carbon fiber weave over here. And then what's completely different to the carbon fiber that you see here and here is the one on your paddle shifters. It's dyed red, and I think that's actually such a nice touch. Subtle feature that also ties in with the red start-stop button over there. Really nice, commanding position, and the seats that I'm in definitely help. You'll know that the M4 competition would have had some slats over here that opened up, but because this is the M4 coupe, you get these seats, pretty much the same thing, just without that opening over there. But overall, a really nice place to sit in. You get some OEM carbon on the dashboard, some OEM carbon running along the center console, but the owner has retrofitted some additional carbon fiber on your gear shift selector, as well as the surround over here. And I should mention, this car has a stage 3 XHP gearbox tune, and it makes for some ferocious tuning. And the rest of it is relatively simple. You get your 2 cup holders over here. This is a button that you can use to determine the ferocity of your gear shifts. In its easiest setting or its lowest setting, it's quite comfortable, but turn it up to 3 in Sports Plus and it feels like you're getting your back kicked every time you take a shift. This is how you turn your traction control on and off, engine mode, suspension, steering mode, and this is your PDC sensor enablement. Over here, you get your traditional radio and climate control settings, which I appreciate. When's the last time you saw physical buttons to do something like that? I really appreciate this, love it, and personally, I think this is the better way to manage your climate control. Overall, it's a relatively simple interior. There's not too much to talk about, but that's how it should be, so I can focus on the driving and not on the infotainment display. With that said, let's get into the drive. So you join me inside the interior of the F82 BMW M4. And mind you, nothing's been done to the suspension of this car, and it's been an intentional decision. That's because once you start fiddling with the suspension, it becomes a bit difficult to get over speed humps and just navigating South African roads generally, right? With that said, I must admit, I'm in the car's most comfortable setting. I've got the suspension in comfort, steering in comfort, as well as the engine mode in comfort as well. And it's definitely stiffer than the G87 M2 in maybe sports, which is quite a jarring experience. But I think it's a relevant thing to mention because it gives you some context as to just how much more refined the newer car is. Now, I know this is subjective, but I'm going to tell you my side of things. As much as that car is more refined than this one, this is a more exciting thing to drive. There's less sound deadening. There's, a bit more bumps whenever you go over the road. And, coupled with the road performance downpipe and midpipe in this car, what you end up getting is a car that is a bit more responsive. It feels a bit more raw. And I think the ultimate package is so much more engaging. If you're young and you have the money for it, go get yourself a performance car. This car is for sale, currently going for 800,000 Rand. It's got just under 90,000 kilometers on the clock, and it does have an Instagram page that's Quad Pipe M4. We'll overlay that information so you can go give it a look and check it out if you are interested in picking it up. But make no mistake, yes, it is stiffer than some of the newer cars, and it isn't as refined as some of the newer cars, but it's still a very solid daily driver. I'm comfortable in this. I could do hundreds of kilometers. I've got all the information I need and, a little bit more, considering the fact that I've got an aftermarket steering wheel with the LED shifters over there. It feels like I'm in a video game, man. It's the coolest thing ever. But personally, I love these cars. I think this is the peak, or the pinnacle rather, of the analog BMW M cars, with maybe the exception of the F87 M2 competition, although that does share the same S55 inline 6 that this one has. So it's pretty much the same car, just slightly different in that the M2 has a smaller wheelbase, a shorter wheelbase, and a bit less power. But this is the fully fledged Granddaddy Boompa M4, and from where I'm sitting, man, it's a solid experience. Like I said, it is a bit raw, but I don't mind it too much, right? So as we sort of shift through the engine modes and the gearbox ferocity, you're going to see that this car has a completely different personality when you want it to have one. And in the quiet ends of Modderfontein, I think this place deserves to get a little bit of noise. So let's turn it up just ever so slightly. The traffic is sort of settled down a little bit. I'm moving out of efficient into sports mode, and immediately you get a little bit more rumble from that inline 6, and that's because of the downpipe that this car has, as well as the mid pipes that have been installed. This car has a 7-speed DCT gearbox. The M2 we drove had an 8-speed ZF gearbox, and I will tell you now, the ZF is smoother. It makes for a more comfortable driving experience, but this one is much sharper, and I think that's something that a car of this nature should have. And I mean, just listen. There it is, just kicking out there ever so slightly. It's because the tires are slightly cold. And that's the 680 Newton meters just braking traction, which is something this car can do very well. And credit where credit is due. I think something that BMW does very well is that they've managed to engineer fun. The MDM mode that you get into once you cycle through the engine modes and get into the sportier settings gives a little bit of slip, enough for you to keep you on your toes, but not enough to actually let you bend the car. You'd have to turn off traction control in order to make that happen. But as it shifts through the gears, the shifts are very immediate, they are very responsive, and this is in the car's most comfortable shift mode, if I were to move it to Sports Plus, which is something I'm going to do now, and put the foot down, oh, it builds up 2000 RPM. There go the pipes. Oh my gosh. It feels like we've given an axe murderer a chainsaw and he's just become so much better at murdering people. That's what this car feels like. I'm going to overtake. I can't. It's such a jarring thing to drive. Oh my word. And there's so much dynamic range in Sports Plus, man. This thing is so insane. Listen. Oof. So predictable, and that's the thing. As it gives away some of the traction, you can sort of feel the rear end giving out, and you're able to predict just exactly where you need some steering input or some throttle modulation in order to keep it on the road. But this car does have a stage 2 tune. Oof. And it gives it so much character. And I think the XHP tune on the gearbox as well adds to the sense of occasion that you get when you're driving this car, man. And as I'm about to take it over the line one more time, oof. And listen, I did have to get out of the car so I could give you guys a proper overview of what it is, or what it feels like rather, to drive this BMW M4. And listen, this is the first tuned car that we've had on the channel. And I'm not gonna lie, I did have my apprehension going into it, because I mean, once you drive a stock car with all its predictability and then you jump into a tuned car, you never know what you could find. But I was pleasantly surprised with this. So this car's performance enhancements have been fitted by Sparta Speedtech. They also do all the maintenance work, service work, and that sort of stuff on the car. Give them a look if you are interested in having them maintain your vehicle. But with this one specifically, few things stick out to me, right? If it's got an FRC stage 2 tune on it, and usually you would expect this tune to sort of dump a lot of power in second gear so it could light up the rear wheels and gets all your friends to start smiling and giggling in the back seat. But what I appreciate about this specific application is that it still keeps the linear S55 power delivery band. Once you get into second gear, just after 2000, 3000 RPM, that's when you really feel it getting into the swing of things. With the XHP stage 3 gearbox tune that you've got on here, you get fast, snappy, responsive shifts. And overall, it gives you a comprehensive package of a car which feels raw, which is quite consuming to drive, to be quite honest with you. And with the Rogue Performance downpipe and the Rogue Performance midsection in the exhaust system, it definitely gives it that additional bit of flair. Driving this, in my honest opinion, is an experience more than it is a task. And I think that's just a culmination of all the different components coming together to give you that proper excitement. And I mean, it looks the part too. So what more could you be looking for? It's currently on sale. If you are looking for the socials for this car, it's at Quad Pipe M4. We'll overlay all the footage over there so that you can find the socials, do your digging, and it's currently on sale for 800,000 rands. If you are interested, give us a shout. We'll definitely get you in touch with the owner, and hopefully you can buy a car through SANTEFIRE. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed already, do subscribe, like this video, share it with a friend. That's all from me. I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.